You got this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends podcast. And there's great news today. We have friends again.
Yay.
Friend.
No, friends.
What's poppin', baby?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Who told Connie we were on?
I was going to welcome Jesse back to the studio. It's been a very long time. But sure, Conrad from some down bad hotel in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I'm in New York City. What are you talking about?
Oh, all right.
Bro, down bad. He's got a TV in the shower, it appears, behind him.
No, it's a nice balcony out there, nice television there. You know, it's popping in here. It's my favorite place to come or stay at when I'm in New York.
Where exactly in New York, Connie?
There's a poker game upstairs.
Actually?
I'm dead serious. Last time I was here, I was in the hotel lobby, and some guy's like, yo, we got a game going on upstairs. I'm like, what do you mean you got a game going on upstairs?
So you're dealing again, is what you're telling us.
No, but that'd be a great idea.
Yeah. They always need a dealer.
What's popping with you guys? How's everything been?
Yeah, how has everything been, Jesse? You've left us. It's been weeks.
It's good. It's good.
Where did you go?
I went home, to Massachusetts for a bit, and I was doing some stuff on our place out there, like some renovations and stuff that I want to be there for. Oh, you have a place? Yeah. I bought a house where I grew up after my run in the main event. And my mom lives over there, and we have like a house and a guest house. So we were like renting it out, one part of it. And after the renters left, they had kids and stuff and a little beat up. So we decided it's time to fix it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not slumlording it there for your mom. You're doing the necessary adjustments.
Actually,
she appreciates that.
On the side, I fixed up her kitchen too, which was kind of really fun.
Very thoughtful.
But yeah.
And I'm sure you were watching the podcast the entire time that you were doing this.
I actually did. I tuned in a little bit.
Okay.
I saw some good stuff, man.
Did you see Landon go an entire show with his zipper down?
No. I'm going to need the link to that
This is a little bit on me. I'm not going to lie. I noticed it about 10 minutes into the show. And I have no way to really alert him because the camera's on me the whole. So we have these whiteboards where we can write notes back and forth to each other, but like the camera's mostly on me, for the whole show. So I didn't want to, and I didn't. For once, I thought better of embarrassing my friend on air. I didn't want to be like, "Yo, bro, Kennywood's open," and then be like, "What's Kennywood mean?" And I'm like, "Your fucking fly is down." So I forewent it thinking like, I just don't draw attention to it. No one's gonna notice it. The entire show, the chat is just going ape.
Jesus.
The whole show, the chat is like, every fifth message is, does Landon know his fly is down? It's like, obviously he doesn't. Just
Yeah, I knew.
It was a power move.
It was a power move. I'm sleepy.
I mean, just, you get one or the other. You either get Landon in gym shorts and way too much thigh, or you get Landon in jeans and way too much cock.
That's why I wore underwear. Underwear check.
I mean,
I
to
wore
be fair
underwear.
to Landon, that's like one of maybe 2 times I've ever seen you wear
Jeans?
anything that has a zipper on it.
Right.
So like, I feel like you get a mulligan there.
Yeah, Guapo could have done all of us a solid by finding the sensor key in real time.
I missed it as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah. See, these guys don't pay finder. Maybe I'm just looking at Landon's crotch too much. I don't know, but it was like glaring
relax.
to me.
Relax.
I'm just like, bro. We're
Do you
gonna
guys know what XYZ means?
XY in what regards?
A zipper.
Like the alphabet? Oh, examine your zipper.
Yeah. So I didn't know this, but it was funny because as soon as like this happened on the podcast and whatnot, Corey was at a table and some guy's like, "Yo, bro, XYZ," talking to somebody else, and Corey asked me if I knew what it meant, and I was like, "Nah."
At one point in my life, I definitely would have gotten that immediately, but now I needed the context clue.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what it? Do you guys know what it means when Kennywood's open?
I've never heard that one.
Yeah,
is that like a Pittsburgh theme park?
Kennywood is a Pittsburgh theme park, yes. And for whatever reason, I would love to have this explained to me, actually. But I know that I'm not alone in this. I guess like passed down turn of phrase. Kennywood's open means your flies down in Pittsburgh, and I don't know where that derived from or how it became a thing, but I promise you, if you find any Yinzer and say, "Hey, bro, Kennywood's open," they're gonna immediately look at their dick. And I, like think about that. How could something like that pass through an entire city where it just became a common turn of phrase?
All right, so it looks like the phrase has been used since at least the 1950s, but its origins are unknown. Some possible origins include a class clown or an overly polite Pittsburgher. Don't know what that means.
I mean, it's like,
I don't think that exists.
It would be it would be the equivalent of not having a podcast, right? Just being a regular person as we are, and saying LMA 9, like, you know, casually, in passing, meaning like you're laughing, and then suddenly an entire city just using LMA 9.
Wait, what's the 9?
Conrad doesn't know how to type.
It's something that just stuck, you know?
He doesn't know how to type. He doesn't know how to read. He doesn't know the difference between a flute and a fiddle.
Oh, the flute and the fiddle is so classic. It's so
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
One is a woodwind instrument. The other one is a string instrument.
We need the fiddle back. If we put the fiddle back in the chat, we're popping again.
Can you play the fiddle, please?
All right, no problem. Give me 1 second. Now that was a fiddle classic. You see?
Right.
My computer just said playing music.
That's what the devil went down to Georgia for.
I was just about to say that. Great reference, Landon. You should really listen to The Devil Went Down to Georgia, Conrad. You'll appreciate the fiddling in that song.
Yeah. It was Conrad was his opponent. Johnny Conrad.
Johnny Conrad.
That's his name.
Yo, you know what's a wildly underrated instrument by our generation and like the next one?
I can't wait to hear this.
The violin.
No, it's not.
Electric violin is maybe the coolest instrument.
It is.
Where are
in
you
no
going
way,
that
shape,
you're
or
listening
form.
to an electric violin?
He's going places.
Is this a Massachusetts thing?
No. There's like a couple artists that I like who I'll send you a link and you can put it up on the screen.
Can we requalify and like agree that this is not a wildly underrated instrument?
I feel like nobody talks about the violin being a badass instrument, but it is a badass instrument.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Maybe it's not a rated enough.
Me and Ashley were walking through, this is like when I first moved to Vegas too, so it was like 12 years ago or something. We were walking through Cosmo and the Chandelier Bar. You guys know the Chandelier Bar? For those listening, the Chandelier Bar is like a 3-floor like chandelier coming down to a bar in the middle of Cosmo.
It's the #1 picture spot for all thirst traps.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah.
That and that big giant stiletto.
Yes, yeah, at the Aria, yeah.
So we walk through and there's this girl playing the electric violin and she's just attached to like some setup, and this other girl's just like sort of like a DJ. So it's like a beat, and then she's just like playing and she's just slaying it. And that was when I realized that the electric violin is just the best.
That's right.
You want a little taste here? I don't know if we'll get demonetized.
I don't know.
Come on, just a little.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Now those are hood violins. There's a big difference.
That I would lift to. I would lift weights to that shit. All right, we have a great show for you guys today. There's actually poker to be discussed, believe it or not.
My friend, wow.
We are going to get into the feud / shilling of ClubWPT Platinum Voyage Pass Golden Opportunity Egg.
Not coin flex?
Not coin flex. We'll talk about that a little bit. The ongoing back and forth between the ClubWPT Gold account and Doug. We will discuss Moneymakers' POV as an ambassador and how he feels ACR could have or should have handled the Nacho Ebony situation.
The goofballs?
The goofballs, the joyful goofballs. But first, if you haven't heard already, the Sean Perry match is off. I know.
Boo.
We really thought that was coming together.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's disappointed. It's actually
bated breath for Sean.
It's quite interesting. Because you know, I'm a reasonably self-aware person. I know that I'm very polarizing in the poker community, and that I both have people who enjoy following me and people who absolutely loathe me, and that's fine. But I gotta tell you, when this match was announced, there wasn't a Berkey hater in the world. Not a one. Every fucking person on the internet wanted to see this kid get his head smashed in.
I swear the number one comment was, I hate Berkey. I loathe Berkey. But Sean Perry might be the one person in the world I hate more than Berkey.
Yeah, it feels good, guys. You know, it feels good to be just one pip above the Sean Perrys of the world.
Congratulations, Matt.
Yeah, you know, it's great. I live a nice, clean life. I don't bother anybody. Don't say boo to anyone. And here I am, one pip above the biggest scumbag in our fucking industry. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's wonderful. Speaking of scumbags, he'll be on Hustler Live coming up this week. You know, amongst the what's the Rounders quote? Whenever they all go to AC and the Grinders are there. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, anyway, that match isn't going to happen. Unfortunately, within an hour of him committing to it, he managed to throw the title sponsor, Monkey Tilt of Poker Go, under the bus, basically calling out Sam Kiki for no reason that's apparent to any of us. But don't worry, he's going to tell you about it. Give him time. And you know, the powers that be said, no, you're not gonna use our platform for that. So he continued to like talk shit randomly here and there. I got tagged in a couple posts, I guess. And he seems to just want the attention. But if he wants to play heads up, I will throw this out there. I'm happy to do it off stream. It seems as though he only cares about getting the glory in front of a viewing audience so he can talk shit about Mickey Mace and Sam Kiki and a bunch of others. However, I like money. And if he would like to lose a bunch of money, as he claims he's so fucking good, you know, we could just play at the Bellagio or Aria or wherever you're not banned. That's fine, you know.
I need a shots fired asset.
He was banned for winning too much at sports betting, right?
I don't know why I don't even know if he's banned. He might not be banned from anywhere, but I know that he's a goddamn liar. He was saying things on his timeline about me that couldn't even be functionally true based off of age. Like, he was basically saying that when he was playing the Ivy Room game against me, that I was on a $5 million downswing and that I torched all. I've been very open about my experience in Ivy's Room, which was a very positive one, both for myself and the people that were backing me at the time. But yeah, there were swings. You know, we were playing 300, 600, 1200, sometimes 1K, 2K. It's a big game. I don't know if you guys are aware. But this is extremely well documented. So talk about putting your foot in your mouth. It was 2015 when my mother and my grandmother both passed that I went on a $5 million downswing. And it ended with me getting fifth in the 2016 Super High Roller Bowl for $1.1 million. That cleared my makeup and got me into the plus. I ended up going from a $5 million downswing to like a $6.5 million upswing. And, you know, I had made money prior and thereafter as well. Sean didn't get into that game until like, I don't know, 2018 maybe? Whenever his deep run in, I think he got second place in Five Diamonds.
Fourth.
Fourth place.
I was at that FT because Mikey got third.
Oh, is that the one Tosic won?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That was actually kind of crazy. So Tossic got second the year before.
Yes.
And then won it. And he beat Foxen heads up. And then Foxen won it like the next year.
Right. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was wild. Man, that was a great event. Good times. Anyway, so it was around that time, which you can correct me if I'm wrong.
2017.
Okay, so 2017.
Yeah, RIP to that event. That was such a good event.
Yeah. So 2 full years. So you have to remember that's December of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
He got into the big game post that. So like early 2018. So we're talking like two and a half full years after this alleged, or not even alleged, it was an actual downswing that did happen. So he claims that while he was in the game, I lost over $5 million and I was playing $500 tournaments afterwards. You can go ahead and check my Hendon Mob how many fucking cashes I have in $500 events.
Really didn't say you cashed them.
Well, that's
Yeah, you just said you played them.
I can assure you, I was absolutely not playing. I might have played the opener, but that was way later. That was the first event that they ran in Horseshoe, so 2021. And I'm a man of the people, you know. I'm not ashamed to get out there and do a little gambling here and there. But it wasn't because I needed it.
Having known you for a while now, I can fully say that if you had only the bankroll to play $500 tournaments, you're playing cash.
Oh, God,
I would put you on that immediately.
Oh God, yeah.
In fact, I feel like you kind of treat tournaments as like when times are good. All right, we'll flick in a tournament.
100%.
Yeah.
I will say in the past when I was younger, it was the opposite. But it was a different time in 2009, 2010. You know what I mean? Like, you rip a tournament off for $50K. Well, now you're bankrolled for like fucking $25.50.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's a big leap. But now it's like you rip a tournament off for $50K. It's like, okay, you can responsibly pay rent and play, 2-5 and pray.
I remember back in those days, Mikey would not rip off a tournament, but he would be staked. He would play some big game, win like 25 to 50K, go off stake, and just like have some sequence of events like in the dumbest way possible, just break them. And then he'd go back to, and like, I'll never forget some of those hands that he told me.
Yeah.
Because they were just like so devastating in terms of like, could have been on his own.
Yeah.
In that time period. He ended up doing fine, so I don't think he cares
I think everybody who gets over those humps does fine. The rest of them just fade into an oblivion. But like, I would assume most every career outside of like the truest outliers at some point have a career changing pot not go their way, and then they have to like fight and actually survive again. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we're so riddled with survivorship bias. It's because for every one or two of those pots that didn't go our way, maybe 4 or 5 subtly went our way that we didn't even recognize in the time. That if it wasn't for that, we would have been humping some 9 to 5 somewhere, getting a personal training degree or certificate rather.
Think if Nish has the truck.
Yeah.
Survivorship bias is think like we're fully aware of what's going on, and we still kind of underestimate the impact of it, because you just have these stories that you look up to where people like spun it up very quickly in the poker world, and like that's not happening on a regular basis. Like, that's not even you're probably looking at the person who's like 1 in 20,000.
Yeah.
And even then, even when that happens, they have to also be good.
Right.
Hang on to it.
It's really funny because like, the past 15 years or whatever, and then even the old guard before that, like the Daniels of the world, the survivorship bias was so riddled. Like it was just so intrinsic to the space itself that it was almost glossed over, right?
Yeah.
And then we all grew up, and we were able to look at the wake of dead bodies that were left behind that didn't make it, and we kind of all began to realize, like, oh, well, there was really no difference between me and John Smith, but I made it and he didn't. Probably because I got lucky in this sort of way, and he didn't, or I had the opportunity to play Ivy's room and he didn't, whatever the case may be, right? So now that we're like elder statesmen and we can kind of understand exactly how we all got here, we all speak to survivorship bias so much. But I watch like a lot of the young kids coming up, and they're all these super geniuses who have been grinding in a basement since they were 17 years old, playing online in the toughest environments, and they're winning, and they're so oblivious to survivorship bias. Like, they're just that, and it's fine. Like, they deserve to feel confident, and we were the exact same way at that age. But like, their subtle arrogance of how they got to this point and why it's deserved is, basically so tone deaf to the things just fell your way, man. Like, that's not to take anything away from your ability or the hard work that you put in, but this is not a meritocracy. Like, you were kind of just handpicked by your distribution, or by catching a break here, there, somewhere in between. And the difference between you being now a nosebleed guy at 26 versus being a coach charging $200 an hour is probably like these few pots that happen to go your way.
From 1 through 10, how much does that tilt you? Like, seeing people that are completely
like a 1.
A 1?
It doesn't bother me at all. I understand it I was very much the same. Like, we were all that way. I guess the difference is that we were ignorant. Like, we had no idea what the hell was going on. We didn't really truly understand this game at depth, where I give a lot of them the benefit of the doubt. Like, I see them as being smarter, more talented, all of these positive attributes. So to see them still fall victim to the same level of ego and arrogance that we fell victim to at that age, it's actually kind of like, I guess, validating in the sense that, like, we're all just human, Yeah.
I don't know, man. It sounds like poker, when you were coming up, was much easier, and ROIs for pros are much higher.
Yeah.
So it's way more likely for surviving to happen for you. Than these days, like, edges are smaller now.
Yes.
So it makes sense that the guys that like didn't leave kind of ended up making it at some point.
You're saying, like, just stick-to-itiveness paid dividends? I think, like,
if you're playing with triple-digit ROIs versus people that are folding top pair on flops, like,
look, I mean,
how much do you really survive when they just die?
I mean, the adage that we all adhere to is the worst thing that can happen to you is you're not in action. It's like you as long as you stay in action, there's a way to get to the next point. But I think that leveled off somewhere, maybe 2019, 2020-ish.
Okay, so you played for some odd number of 15 years before then. You're probably going to make it.
No. Yeah. Look, everybody who was fortunate enough to get to that juncture then had a choice to either put in the hard work and, maintain and grow beyond survivorship bias, or die. And a lot of them are either died or are currently dying.
We're all currently. We're living to die, man.
Yeah, you got to live to die, baby. Got to get it going.
It's weird because a lot of the young guys played a lot of online poker. So if you're playing at some ABI of like 215 or whatever, there's still some good tournaments, and winning or losing flips in that might fast track the process. But they're also playing like thousands of tournaments a year if you're grinding really hard, that at some point the deck picks you as well.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
So how much survivorship is there also?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Inherently, there's a ton of survivorship bias, especially now, like the way you frame it, where edges are relatively small. The difference between the top guy that makes it and the top guy that fails probably is pretty narrow, right? It's probably not going to come down to like some sort of like personal attribute. Like, you could say that in our era, like discipline and networking and all these soft skills and whatnot are reason enough to like survive and flourish, perhaps.
I guess I'm trying to get to the point that like you mostly survive if you're very good and have a win rate of let's just call it 10% or whatever, and you're playing an ABI of 215 online.
No shot.
What do you mean no shot? You have 10% ROI.
Yeah, but I'm saying no shot that like you have a high probability to flourish.
But let's just say that you play 10,000 tournaments a year.
That's a lot of
That's
tournaments.
a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying if you no-lifed your basement and grinded for years on end, at some point you're probably going to get chosen and make it.
I don't know what like normal volume is for an MTT guy. But like if we flip this to cash and say that you're grinding 1 million hands a year.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's not easy. That was like Supernova Elite.
It's
status.
40 tournaments a day for 250 days, right? So it's like doable.
But
Right.
40 tournaments a day is doable?
Just like bullets.
Online,
Yeah, buy-ins.
Okay,
whatever.
re-entries.
But
yeah.
also, like, you're playing 6 to 8 tables if you play all day. I'm not
Yeah, but
saying
I
it's
didn't
the
think there
most
were these
glamorous
kind
lifestyle.
I just didn't think these schedules existed anymore.
I mean, you have to just like multiple site it, but it's possible.
I mean, we multi-sited back in the day. How often were you playing 40 tournaments in a day?
I mean,
Not me personally, because I mostly played cash after I finished
Okay,
college.
but like even people that were grinding hard, like Brent put in massive volume. I don't know that he was playing 40 shells a day.
Well, I mean, if you go to Pads' Instagram, which you guys kind of turned me on to, he's only playing during big series, so that's fair. But like, he's definitely playing
high.
40 or 50 tournaments.
Yeah, but
he's like 20 tabling.
high traffic times, of course. Sundays, of course, you'll get in that sort of volume.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting 40 215s in, maybe with some aggressive rebuys, but like you'll get some like 215s, you'll get like 1 or 2 like 500s or a 1K, and then you'll get some 109s, and it'll probably average out pretty well.
Okay, maybe it's doable. Yeah,
like, again, like maybe it's doable but hard.
Okay, so 10,000 tournaments at 215 ABI, you're saying?
And you have some ROI of 5 to 10%, and like you do this for a few years, like you'll probably end up.
But that's only
it,
$21,000 a year. Or am I doing my math wrong?
I think you're doing your math wrong.
It's $210,000 in buy-ins, right?
If you're playing,
No.
If you're playing 10,000 215s.
Or wait, is it 2 million in buy-ins?
2 million in buy-ins.
Okay, so it's like
Right.
200K.
Let's get a calc.
200K in profits.
Let's get a calc
A lot
going.
of zeros.
10,000 times
2.1
100 would be
2.15
Yeah,
million.
so 2.15 million. So yeah, okay, so you're making 200,000 a year.
So again, if you're making 200K a year in your early 20s, that's pretty good. And you're also really good at poker, and at some point probably can find the network to get to high stakes and have someone that thinks you're pretty good. Again, not saying that it's easy or like you make it, but at the same time, it feels like if you're on that path, there is a way.
Yeah, of course there's a way. That wasn't at all what I was implying. I guess I'm not following your point.
It doesn't feel like a survivor though if you're playing that much for that long.
He's
for many
he's saying the
years.
sample is so large
Right,
that
you
you're
play
almost
so many
guaranteed
hands.
to.
Like you play so many tournaments, right? At some point, like the numbers and the way things are.
But to get to a 10% ROI with an ABI of 215, how did you had to survive to get there? That's
I guess the difference
lead
now,
up to that was the survivorship bias.
Yeah,
You're
not
going
the
all the way-
succeeding.
Sorry to interrupt. You're going all the way back to like when you first start out, like, and that's, you know, kind of a different. Well, I don't know if you're going all the way back, but like you remind me of going all the way back to when you first start out. Like I had, you know, a number of $50 deposits.
Yeah.
And I just like kept trying, you know, but
turbo
like
dusting.
I had a couple times where I was like, man, if I lose this one, like that actually might be it. You know?
We talked about this in the 2016 Super High Roller Bowl at our table. We were saying like the difference between, so at the time Fedor was the hot name. And we were like, well, the difference between a Fedor and like some guy that you've never heard of from Yugoslavia is that Fedor had more 1K reloads to keep trying when he failed. You know, he was able to just redeposit to stars over and over. And if you follow like Fedor's, online career and whatnot, it was really rocky at the start. And that's going to be the case for everybody. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's not about succeeding once you've made it. Of course, like that's going to be a reflection of your skill. That's going to be a reflection of how much volume you put in. That's going to be a reflection of your bottom line and everything else. It's surviving all of the mess to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to put in high volume when you have low to no win rate.
I do think that these days it's probably more possible to get to the place of being at least theoretically aware. Like if you just, instead of playing tournaments because you don't have money, just spent money on a Wiz subscription and just grinded playing the trainer for the same time you would spend playing tournaments, you could get really, really good.
Yes, you could get really, really good.
Without losing money.
Yes. And then what?
And then you start small, I would imagine. And if you run out of money, like that's life. But if you started with poker,
But that's kind of my point.
well, you don't think anybody started poker with like a plan as to how they think they can make it?
Yes, but like that plan still overlooks survivorship bias. Like I don't care what the at the end of the day, no matter what stake level you enter at, it could be micros, it could be low stakes, it could be mid stakes, whatever. If you don't have success within the first chunk of a sample, you're going to pivot. So you're just going to be forced into a pivot. Whether that's your first 10,000 events or your first 5,000 or 1,000, like everybody's timeline is going to be slightly different. But the point is you can't break even for 5 years and then like come out the other side. It's just almost impossible to maintain that unless you're like 16 and just have no other responsibility. But if you're 16 with no other responsibility and you put 5 years in to break even, you're probably not putting in volume. You know, you're probably just like utilizing this as a hobby.
Or you have a crazy level of grit where you're like going to work every day and then just like firing after work. And then finally one day you just like get there and start.
And that's very viable. But if you're working in 9 to 5, it's going to be difficult to be putting in 40 events a year or 40 events a day, right?
Is there nothing?
Yeah, I agree.
Is there nothing in this world that excludes survivorship bias?
Very little, I think.
Okay, then. So if that's like kind of a denominator and everything, why is that important?
I think it's like incredibly important.
Well, it's important
just
to
like
conversation
know that, just to know like, oh, like I'm a survivor. Like I just kind of got lucky.
No, and it's
like,
also important to like, for instance, I looked up, well, I still do look up to Fedor, but I looked up to Fedor a lot during his run because he took some shots and it went really well. And I was like, yeah, you can just have like a crazy summer and rip off some tournaments, and all of a sudden you're just like the end boss of like your own diming a bunch of like high rollers and stuff. And that's like a really dangerous way to look at things because now you're just like taking shots at tournaments, which is anyone who says like I'm taking a shot at this tournament, like bankroll wise, that's a wildly bad concept to.
Yeah, I think that...
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Like, understanding variance isn't important, because of course it is. But also being like, oh, like I kind of got lucky.
I think it's important for a lot of reasons. One, what Jesse's speaking to is understanding, like, bell curve distributions in general, and knowing what outliers look like. And also knowing that, like, nobody is immune or I guess, like... predisposed to being the outlier. So we all want to believe that we're going to be the positive outlier. We're all going to be the right side of the bell curve. And we all want to believe that like we're immune to being the left side of the bell curve. But like you're just not, you know? And these distributions are equally viable to just about everybody. Of course, your skill set's going to shift you along the scale a little bit, but it's not going to have such a heavy impact that there wasn't a Fedor-like player who ended up on the left side of the bell and just died off and is now, you know, operating a hedge fund somewhere. Like there's plenty
there's 100,000 of them for every.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of talent and genius that ran in the bottom 1% while Fedor was running in the top 99%. You know what I mean? And that's really, really critical to acknowledge no matter what it is that you're pursuing, poker or otherwise. It also helps you understand the luck factor and variance as a whole and how impactful it is to your day-to-day. And, you know, ignoring that and believing that, like, this is all you and this is all something that you could just put your mind to. I remember when like, Lynn first broke into the high-stakes scene, she had this mindset where she was like, it doesn't matter how much I get buried, it's okay, because I could just will myself to win in that session. It's like, oh man, you are in for a fucking rude awakening when you understand how...
When you won't.
Yeah, like how distribution just works and like what happens when you're dealt out after you're buried 4 buy-ins. Like you just don't get to... Like, what ends up happening is you force shit. And then you just see like this wild outlandish bluff with a hand that's never even supposed to VPIP and it gets picked off and now you're buried 8 buy-ins, you know?
And sometimes it works. You feel like a genius,
exactly.
and you willed your way back to being stuck 2 buy-ins.
Exactly.
And you try to do it again.
And having some objective oversight of that, understanding that like when you try to will yourself to a win and it works, it wasn't you actually willing yourself to win. It was just positive variance, right? I think all of this is very critical in acknowledging survivorship bias. And even further, I think it's just super important, especially if you're a high performing individual, whether it's intellectually, physically, or otherwise. It's really important to be able to humble yourself on the regular. And the second that you just chalk survivorship bias up to a default mechanism that exists in anybody who's successful is the second that you like abolish yourself from any responsibility to attributing like your success to luck, right? Now it all becomes about you, and it's self-aggrandizing, and it's all about the things that you've accomplished off of the hard work and the sweat that you put in and everything else. It's like, what if it's just the exact opposite? Like, what if you're 1% better because of all those things, but like you're 99% of the where you are because of just dumb chance?
Have you guys
It
ever?
also that seems sad, kind of. You know, like at what point is there any accountability for doing things and actually being good? Like, yeah, like a lot of things are out of your control, but there is still a lot of things in your control too. You never make it if you don't study and try hard.
Well, let me offer you the inverse, because I think it's very easy to want acknowledgement for all of the things that we do well. What if people were just keeping score on everything that you fucked up?
What do you mean?
Like, what if every single failure was what people judged you by?
Perkins loss, Slots tweet.
Okay, but like I'm saying, like literally everyone, even the most insignificant ones, right? Like you're 30 seconds late to a meeting, you're 1 minute late to a meeting. Like these are judgments, right? A lot of that's just going to be a byproduct of variance as well, right? There's a negative survivorship as well, you know? So it cuts both ways. And nobody wants to be constantly judged or put under the microscope for every single outcome that occurs in their life, right? Imagine if every single outcome that has ever occurred to you as a living being was attributed to you and you solely. Think of how many outcomes are just strictly variance and dumb luck, right? Like think specifically of like all the negative outcomes that are just variance and dumb luck. If you have to own all of those regularly, then sure, like if your mind works that you're capable of holding both of those ideas at the same time, of I'm equally responsible for everything bad that happens as I am that everything good happens, okay, fine, then yeah, you don't have to acknowledge survivorship bias because you're constantly centering yourself anyway. You're constantly measuring the good versus the bad, right? But that's not how we work. We can't work that way because we dwell so much on the negative, right? Most successful people have a very short memory when it comes to all their failures, and they have a very big ego when it comes to all their successes.
But by success people that became successful are also just survivors as well.
Yes.
They're just a few good or bad decisions away from being destitute.
I don't even necessarily know it's good or bad decisions, right? They're just like a few lucky or unlucky decisions. The market didn't have to move positively for them that day that they went a little bit too exposed or whatever.
I think we're getting a bit extreme because like if you take this back to like the poker world, if you're like a winning poker pro, I think the difference between a few a few lucky spots is being Fedor or being a guy who grinds mostly online,
like circuits,
like some like 2Ks live tournaments or whatever. But
or
I don't think it's like
not.
Destitute to like, rich. It's more like just another
above
person.
Average to elite.
Yeah, like there's definitely some player out there who's like one of the best in the world that just like hasn't
He's just running
enough.
bad.
It's for sure happening at this moment.
Yeah, and people don't have infinite time or infinite money, so they just won't see it through. They won't see through the full sample to correct and then get their sun run and become Fedor.
Isn't that their fault if they leave?
No, because it could take a lifetime.
It could. It also couldn't, I guess. Like
that's the hopium, right? That's wanting to be on the right side of the bell curve.
But you don't automatically know that you're on the wrong side. You just have to do it for as long as you can.
No,
until
that's
you
that's
don't
what makes
want
it.
to.
That's what makes it so much worse. You don't know that you're on the wrong side. So when you're on the left side of the bell, you don't know if you're on the left or in the middle. And if you're actually in the middle with your distribution and everything else, then you just suck.
Well, I guess you get feedback, and maybe this is the difference between some of the guys that are great running bad and don't make it. Maybe when it's like lack of network and they don't really know if they're good or not, or have peers to review stuff with. Because a lot of the best guys in the world would be able to look at that, or like you pay someone that's a coach that's really good because that service is out there. It's like, hey, am I good or am I running bad? And then they give you an answer and they say, oh, like you're running bad. And now it's up to you to say, okay, do I keep playing and can I withstand the bell curve, or am I done? That's a choice.
Well, aren't you saying like past, like you're already at a certain level when you're talking about that, because you're like, you're reaching out to some of the best. You have a network basically in a sense, or you have access
pay for the
network.
And you've also done enough at that point where it's viable to continue. You know, if you start your career off just in a bottom third distribution for the first 5,000 hands, you're probably not going to get past that. You're probably just going to die there.
Yeah, you might.
Same thing if
you didn't.
Well, I didn't start off. I very unlikely started off with a bad distribution. I almost certainly started off with a positive one, and that's probably going to be true of almost everybody that has made it this far. Like, good things have to break your way early because you have no talent, you have no skill, right? You have to have positive reinforcement in order to go grow those things. But even that notwithstanding, let's say that, you know, you play 20% of your volume in really, really, really high stakes situations, and the other 80% in not, right? Like, that's how MTTs work. Basically, let's call it 15% of the time you're bubble play or deeper. The other 85% of the time you're pre that. Let's say that you run hot as balls, like you're on the right side of the distribution 85% of the time. I mean, that's extreme, but let's say that like your positive variance all comes at the wrong time, and all of your negative variance that corrects comes at the wrong time. Like, these are things that are very subtle that can't really be measured. You know, it'll look like you just play really poorly when in the money or around the bubble.
Do you think that? Well, I mean, it makes it the case for playing cash when you start.
Kind of the same thing though. Like, maybe 10% of your pots equal like, or 20% of your pots equal like 80% of your bottom line. So you know, it's not a large sample that you have to run bad in for things to just go very, very, very wrong against you.
Yeah, I mean, I also think, I guess it's just a matter of how you go about starting from zero. It's going to be much harder to make it if you start alone and have no network, no nothing, versus trying to.
I think we're just like qualifying different things. You're qualifying making it as like developing the skill, and I'm saying that.
Like, of course, survivorship bias exists, but like, at what point is there actually any skill or utility to being good? Because you're just making it sound like you're just lucky or you're not.
Yes,
you see what I'm saying? Like,
right, but I'm talking about getting to an established level. Once you're established, it's not necessarily survivorship anymore, right? Like,
well, there's still a bunch, because you could be established but just like running poorly and considered like one of like the lower tier, one of the lower people in the upper tier, even though maybe you're not.
Yeah, and that will impact you marginally, but not to the same degree as like when you're starting out. It won't necessarily force you to pivot. Although your point is valid, right? Like, Brewer had a bad 2-year run and got a job.
Yeah.
You know, he went from playing nosebleeds to having a job.
And then won a bunch of money.
Because
he came back.
It corrects, right? Yeah, the math of all this is like just really fucky, and I think like when people don't acknowledge that, they're doing themselves a disservice. That's all.
Brewer's an enigma to me, man. He found a backer for some insanely large buy-in tournaments like somewhat early in his career, before like much. I mean, he clearly had like a strong skill set in poker, and
yeah,
you know, that's more important obviously than any results, but like it's rare that you find a situation like that without some like very established results.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, he was kind of known in LA though as a cash guy who had been doing pretty well.
But I mean, I could count on one hand the number of LA regs I would back in high rollers.
That's absolutely facts. No offense to LA, but you guys are so.
No, there's some very good players in LA.
Yeah,
it's just
I'm talking some sure.
No, there's like there are some very good players in LA, but like
they're the best.
They're playing cash. They're not like out there studying tournaments.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Let's not pretend like the live stream scene in LA is like.
Hey man, those guys don't get to play on the live streams because they're not fun.
Okay, you're talking about one person, and I wholeheartedly agree with everybody whose point of view is that he doesn't belong on a live stream. Like, I'm sorry, he's just a fucking eyesore.
I can offer you a flip.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit.
Does that interest you?
Does that interest you? Let's get into this interview that Moneymaker did with PokerWorg earlier this week. So if you guys have been paying attention, obviously, as podcast watchers, I'm sure you have been dialed in. ACR had a couple blips on the radar, if you will. Well, let's not call them blips anymore because this is becoming more consistent than I think any of us would like to acknowledge. But within a week of one another, and to be fair, one of them had happened a year prior, but roughly within a week of one another, while the Venom was running, Nacho Barbero, one of the ACR ambassadors and pros, posted a story of him playing the Venom as well as some other events with GTOWizard up in the background. A big firestorm came out of, not only is RTA a threat now, but we see the ambassadors of sites using it. Pads did his due diligence to go through all of Nacho's hands, proved him to be innocent of any wrongdoing. However, optically, it was horrible for both him and the site, as well as online poker, I would say, as a whole, given the current state of affairs. Roughly a week or so later, an old post from Ebony Kenny was drudged up from her Instagram account, doing the exact same thing while deep in the Venom as well. And again, it was one of those things where when you look at the screenshot, it appears as though she's looking at a post-flop situation and her actual node in-game is pre-flop, so very unlikely that she was utilizing this to cheat. But again, the optics are just absolutely horrific, especially when you're representing one of the leading sites in the world. And there was a lot of conversation around this for many days. Nothing really came of it. We don't think either of them were really reprimanded by the site. Public apologies were issued.
It was the opposite. The site said that they didn't believe that they weren't cheating, and
goofballs
is what it is.
Yeah. The site put out an initial statement on Nacho, which was horrifically tone deaf. They retracted that. Nacho then put out an apology himself. The site followed through and said, "We take this very seriously. We found no wrongdoing after doing an internal investigation." Then Ebony followed suit, also put out a public apology. Site said the same thing. We did an internal investigation. Then we followed up again and did it again now. Found no wrongdoing. So let's all just avert our eyes and move on. Moneymaker was recently interviewed by PokerOrg, and they kind of asked him, point blank, what would you do in this situation if you were in charge of their fate?
My first knee-jerk reaction is like, we need to fire them both. It's very difficult for me to argue about taking someone's livelihood away. When I make a knee-jerk reaction like that, they need to be fired. I need to take a pause and be like, well, is that an appropriate reaction? What would happen if it was a normal player? And I asked Phil and the rest of the team that exact question. Basically, he told me is they go through, not to get too in depth of how our security protocols work, but they'll go through and they'll look at the account. And if the account hasn't used real-time assistance, they'll get a warning. And after the warning is issued, if it's found to happen again, then they would get banned. So his position is that she should receive a warning. And if it happens again, then she should be banned. Now, I'm under the impression, like you are, that as an ambassador, we should be held to a higher standard. We represent the site. I do believe that, yes, she should get a warning, but I also believe that, she should either be suspended. I don't know what I don't know what the disciplinary should be. Should she be fired? If she's fired, he's fired. Not. I don't think you can get rid of one without the other. I think it has to be a joint thing. If I owned ACR, I would probably get rid of both of them. That's again, it's easy for me to say when it's not my decision to make.
What I mean, I think that's like pretty telling. First of all, I think it's like worth pointing out.
The Cleveland Browns right now.
And there's.
Hey, I almost batted 1,000 today, man.
Little Pat McAfee in the background. First, I think it's like really important to point out that for all that he's done, and in spite of like maybe a couple missteps, like the bot challenge, if you will, Chris Moneymaker is like the embodiment of a perfect ambassador, right? Like, we have an entire era of poker named after him. He created the Moneymaker boom, which again, that's just dumb luck, right guy, right place, right time type of thing. But he wore the ambassador flag really, really, really well for 2 decades thereafter. He carries himself well. He understands the role. He seems to put a lot of thought, time, and dedication into being the face of whoever it is that he's representing. He's never really put a faulty foot forward outside of, basically trusting that ACR's security is so tight that he could implore the audience to build bots to crack it. And maybe that was just him being fed misinformation behind the scenes, or
maybe just being overconfident.
Yeah, exactly. But outside of that, like, not a blemish on this guy's record. And I think like when he speaks, it's really worth listening to, because from my perspective, as we mature more as an industry, I often wonder, how are these ambassadors chosen? And at what point do they become, or at what point are there diminishing returns? A
liability, maybe?
Sometimes it's a question of when are they a liability, but more overall, at what point are you just getting diminishing returns, right? Like, I would assume the majority of the value that an ambassador brings, if it's not a moneymaker type, somebody that will be looked up to and maybe followed throughout his entire career. If it's just hey, we got Ronaldo type of thing, I assume that the majority of the weight that they throw in favor of the site happens within the first 3 to 6 months. It's like the announcement, whatever marketing campaigns you build around them in maybe the first 3 months or so. And then, maybe a little bit of residual effect of the cool factor of somebody who's wildly popular being associated with a specific site.
Could have just used Neymar, man.
Well,
yeah, or Neymar.
I think there's like the ACR way of going about it is very odd. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, right? Like when you look at like the new WPT site, how they're approaching ambassadorship is like really sharp. They have like people who have clear, strong metrics on social media, YouTube, and they have like these affiliate links, and they can see how many people they're getting signed up to like a new site. When you look at a guy like Neymar, like clearly he's going to bring some people from soccer over to PokerStars, or he'll at least, like, people who are interested in PokerStars will see their favorite soccer player. ACR doesn't really seem to have like a plan with their ambassadors. They did do some kind of like house where they were launching YouTube videos, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels like
the punter's pad.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that concept. But a lot of it feels like it's kind of like it's Nagy's homies.
Yeah.
More than anything else. And he's like, I'll just put a couple of my homies each time in like a big tournament or whatever. And maybe that does get good exposure. I don't really know. And I'm certainly not hating on the ambassadors. That's a really awesome spot for them. But it does feel like what you're saying is very specific to ACR, whereas like other sites might have like a little bit of a more clearly defined how are we getting value out of this sort of thing. It seems like Nagy's just like throwing darts against the wall, and like fair enough, because they're like this offshore site that's probably just printing a ton of money, and he's just like doing stuff.
I think it's like ACR and below, if that makes sense. Like Full Tilt had a clear marketing scheme, come play with the pros, and they had the best top pros back then.
Yeah, it turns out they were giving all of our money to the pros.
Right.
We didn't know it, but
Stars was very, very particular in who they selected. They had basically Moneymaker, Greenstein, Negreanu, and then eventually went on to get Mercier, Liv Barry, and Vanessa Selps. But they were super, super, super selective, right?
They got even way nittier after that class of people, because I remember some of the main event champions around my time wouldn't even get a deal with them, and weren't asking for a lot. We're just asking for like 100% rake back. Right. And they were just like they were just out the ambassador game for a while, which is fair.
Post Black Friday, they just cleaned house basically. Yeah. And you saw that there was a bunch of they also signed Ike, I believe, at one point. But when the rate got hiked, Ike left, and then that led to them basically maybe asking the same questions I'm asking now. At what point do we have diminishing returns from even having these ambassadors, right?
Imagine an ambassador who leaves over rake.
Right.
What a stand-up guy.
Imagine.
There's two ways you could take that situation.
Well, we'll leave it up to the audience to interpret. But yeah, you're right. This is not, I wouldn't go so far as to say uniquely an ACR problem, because I would imagine this impacts like party poker as well. But maybe I'm a little skewed because I don't live in Europe, so I don't follow who the party poker pros are very closely, and they don't seem to matter much to me in the American market. And we saw Guapo scrolling through the list of GG pros as well. I kind of feel the same way about them. Outside of Fedor, and when Jason was there, I didn't feel like they were like, I didn't feel like the team itself was anything more than influencers, which is fine. I totally understand the desire for that. If you have like, oh, I guess D-Negs, I forgot he's there. If your goal is to, churn out Twitch streamers, which I think that was an idea for a period of time, maybe like 2019, like right at the end of Jason Somerville's run, and it led to a lot of the current Stars team, right? Like Jason basically had Spraggy under his wing. I believe he had Easy with Aces under his wing, Fenton, and that branched off then to.
Wait, sorry, who's Jason?
Somerville.
Oh, okay.
So
Kevin
run it up
Martin,
initially.
right?
Yeah, he might have had Kevin Martin under him. I can't really recall.
Oh, I remember. Those were some good days.
I'm pretty sure he was. And to be fair, Felipe is like huge in Brazil.
That's fair because it's a new budding market. Yeah, Brazil's a new budding market,
massive.
and like he's kind of the face of it, right? So that makes a lot of sense. And again, I'm probably short-sighting a lot of the Europeans and South Americans and stuff like that because I'm not in that market, so I don't really know what the influence is, right? But like the signing of Alex Botez, for example, like that's a clear
sharp,
play.
Yeah.
Is it?
To me, it seems sharp because it's coming from a game of strategy.
I think it's a
and
good
you would think
flyer.
there'd be some crossover from that.
Yeah, I think it's a good flyer to take, right? And see if there's any chess crossover. But again, I pose the question of like, when are there diminishing returns? Like 4 years down the line, does having Alex Botez move the needle still? I don't know. Maybe.
Do you think guys like D-Negs has diminishing returns?
No, but for a very different reason. For the same reason Moneymaker does not have diminishing returns.
Because he loves to tweet.
Well, that actually is the only argument I think you could have for diminishing returns is because he loves to tweet.
I think you could argue against D-Negs. I'm not saying, I have no idea. D-Negs makes a lot of good content for whoever he's working with, and he's like clearly an insanely strong ambassador for whoever he works for. But he gets paid so much that you could make the argument that it's not in there.
I still think it's probably small by comparison to what their overall spend is, and I think he probably still brings a lot. Like
Like a D-Negs versus a Ronaldo, or a D-Negs versus a soccer guy.
Yeah, because like the soccer guys aren't engaged in the community.
Yeah, like Neymar is with stars.
Yeah, but like he's not
like actively promoting.
He's just paid
like,
to represent the Stars brand, right?
He just goes
paid
to like
to wear
3
a patch.
EPTs a year.
Exactly.
And they film like the day one table with him, and then
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think D-Negs. I also think D-Negs is a way better.
Yeah. The irony is,
I mean, D-Negs is clearly like our like
standard.
Yeah, like our gold standard of ambassador, and he has been for 20 years.
I think you can make an argument for Moneymaker too, to be quite honest.
Yeah, true.
To be honest with you guys, I think that these are just like Neymar and Felipe are like the Brazilian D-Negs and Moneymaker.
I don't
like
think Neymar is.
I mean, I don't know, man. He's just huge in Brazil.
Yes,
like
in soccer. Nobody's gonna walk up to Neymar on the street and be like, "Oh my God, I played with you on Poker Stars." Like that's that's not a thing. But they're
first
gonna
they'd be like, "Oh my God, you're Neymar. What's going on?" And then they might follow up with that one.
no, they're gonna know him for soccer, and it's going to be solely soccer. Like he's not gonna ever be when his Stars deals end. When his Stars deal ends, nobody will remember. Outside of like some tiny small portion of the poker community that's insulated.
It's funny because like
no one will remember that he was a part of a poker site.
It's funny because I don't know if Sergio Aguero is with GG, but like he has an avatar on GG that's like his face. No one's gonna be like, "Hey, like you're the poker player."
Exactly. No one's going to remember these things.
Unless
you're
a poker player.
We don't ever question like when a watch company pays tens of millions of dollars to do a photo shoot with
it's different. You're selling a product,
like a
not
tennis
a service.
player or something. Yeah, but what I'm saying is like we don't ever question the cost benefit analysis to that. But then like when a poker site does it, we know how we just like know the ins and outs of the poker world. So we know poker sites like don't always make great decisions. So we're kind of like, yeah, they're torching money on that guy.
Also, I think like when you're talking about like high-end goods like that, if they're just paying for clout. And that's what I feel the operators are attempting to do in this instance. But the reason why I oppose it is like, when are there diminishing returns? When is it no longer worth it? Is because I don't think you can buy clout in this space. Like, I don't think Neymar brings very many people from outside. I could be very wrong, but that's just my general observation. I don't see a lot of new faces in the poker community and attribute them to a soccer star who was signed by, Poker Stars or whatever. And to that end, when you talk about like the celebrity factor, you can sign Ivy to do the exact same thing. And WPT has done this. He basically makes 6 appearances a year. He never is on social media. He doesn't tweet. He doesn't talk about WPT. He never does anything. But I can assure you, people attribute him to WPT, and he moves the needle more than a famous athlete would. Because within this community, he's a celebrity. And that's what you're trying to acquire.
He is the Neymar. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
He doesn't need to do what D-Negs does. He doesn't need to be that active and engaged. He just needs to put his stamp of approval on something, because with it comes an immediate clout, a certain level of establishment, right? But now whenever you go down to the next tier, when you just start signing a bunch, this is not the full tilt model. ACR is not the full tilt model. GG is not the full tilt model. Because back then, there was like 250 pros, and the top 20 of them were signed by Full Tilt. Maybe the top 50 were signed between Full Tilt and Stars, right? Now you're talking about just getting a bunch of like B and C list streamers and MTTers and whatnot, and like throwing a bunch of money at them, right? And I'm not even confident that they represent the site well. Like, they have to put out fires, which, if you ask me, honestly, and I don't mean this as a slight against anybody, but like, by signing with ACR, I think you immediately diminish your own personal brand. And in return, because nobody puts really any effort into being an ambassador as far as like acquisition goes, as far as, whatever would be required, like whatever would fall under the job description of representing the site to help it grow. Like, if you look at the Stars team, for example, they have an entire stable of streamers. Guys like Spraggy, Lex, Fenton, Tonka. These guys have been streaming for the better part of a decade, and they've built these massive, massive communities. Now, I know that there are streamers on ACR But I don't think a single one of them holds a candle to anybody that I just listed off of Stars, right?
No, Stars has been very sharp about who they've picked.
Precisely.
And also like...
And they cultivate it.
Yeah, and also it's unlike Ronaldo or even like the old Full Tilt pros. There are very clear metrics that you can track with those guys, and so you know what you're getting.
Exactly.
And that makes a big difference in my mind. I don't know if I'm just like overly analytical.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you. Like if you're running the company, and that's what Moneymaker was asking. Like if you were put into the shoes of Nagy, like you're running the company, what would you do? And it's like they're expendable. They have to be expendable. They cannot be. I mean, I shouldn't say they have to be expendable. You would ideally like to hire people that are not expendable, right? But in an instance like this, where you do something that tarnishes the brand that you're representing and tarnishes you as a player, you're expendable for sure. The amount of value that these pros are bringing ACR is next to zero, outside of like maybe Longcar and Boski, because they do seem to be actively engaged with the ACR community at a very deep level. They have their own events on the site. They're constantly promoting it. Like they are shills in a way that like only Doug Polk could rival. You know?
I mean, I haven't really seen like a ton of Boski stuff. He might have way more viewers and I just don't know. But
I don't think it's about quantity. I think it's quality with him.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a retention guy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, those metrics really matter. I feel like Longcar earned it. He's just like, he's always popping up in my socials and stuff like that. And I don't even really follow much poker in these socials. And he's always in there. I feel like he kind of, and also like, man, he promotes the crap out of his tournaments on the
of course
site and stuff.
So like you can look at them and you can easily say like, hey, these guys, they're still providing value. They provide a lot of retention to our community. They're actively engaged. People know who they are. They associate, like you say the name Boski or Longcar and like you immediately think ACR. I don't necessarily think that when you say Nacho. You know,
you think goofball.
I think joyful goofball.
I mean, Nacho is the greatest on streams on those Triton streams.
Yeah,
he's wonderful.
His banter is
he's
amazing.
so funny.
He's wonderful, but he's literally being paid to be their Ivy. That's insane. Like he doesn't do anything particular for the site. He just puts up a social post every now and again with GTOWizard in the background, and then wears a patch at Triton final tables.
Does he wear a patch?
Yeah.
I feel like I just watched one.
No, he does.
He does. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
doing the thing.
You know, I don't know if that's profitable or not for them. I have my opinions, but like,
sure,
I don't know.
I guess I'm
who
stating,
cares even if it is or isn't?
Well, it's not about that's not necessarily the point. I posed it this way to kind of back into supporting Moneymakers' stance.
No, yeah, I got you, and I think that it's a strong argument for sure. I remember when,
like, the warning means you know it's not you didn't know.
Well,
like that's what warnings are.
To be fair,
right?
Yeah, but to be fair, Moneymaker was clear. He said, like, if this had happened to a random player, a nobody, no one had clout or inside information or inside pool, they would audit his account, and if they found no wrongdoing, they would warn him. And so basically, Nagy said, we're going to apply the same standard to our pros. And Chris's counter to that is like, absolutely not. They are representing the site. They have to be held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And I can understand why they're not.
Well, to be fair, they did have GTOWizard look into it, and GTOWizard said there was no wrongdoing. Like, the hands they played versus.
Nobody's saying that. Nobody's accusing them of cheating anymore. It's just that they fucked the optics so bad they don't deserve a job.
Well, I just meant that. Well, that's. I'm not going to argue that one way or the other because I don't know. But I mean, you could be right, you could be wrong. I don't.
Well, it's not about being right or wrong. It's just my opinion.
But they have held them to a higher standard by consulting GTOWizard and seeing, because every day there's.
No. They would do this. They would
12
do
guys on.
Apparently, they would do this.
They would do the same thing with a regular player. That's their protocol.
Would they though? Do they?
Yeah, GTOWizard works for them.
Do they?
Yes.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
That's who developed the reshuffle in the PLO games.
I might get back on ACR, boys.
Why?
This sounds kind of nice. They're rooting out cheaters?
No, that's not how this works.
They're warning them.
That's not how this works.
All right, now I'm just lost because I thought that
the way the process works is GTOWizard is a for-hire third-party company for any site security that wants them.
Yeah.
They will then consult and share their user database information with said site anytime that there is an accusation of cheating.
Okay.
But the site itself still has to go and suss people out. So therefore, somebody has to be reported dozens and dozens and dozens of times with breaking fair play before the site takes notice, flags it,
that's what I'm
pulls
saying,
in GTOWizard.
So the Ebony and Nacho were kind of held to a higher standard because they were the first time.
No. They got the dozens and dozens and dozens of fair play when 100,000 people retweeted their image of using GTOWizard. Like, it was brought to the attention of security.
Saying, I'm going to go home and fire some ACR tournaments. ACR, if you're looking for a new pro.
I was about to say, if you're trying to replace anybody, Jesse's clearly for hire, and he is a company man. That's abundantly clear.
I'll never forget when I was a pro with 888 for a few years. I had a great time. Those guys are awesome. When they dropped me and basically all American pros, because we held very close to zero value for them at that point. My immediate reaction was like, yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, this feels kind of similar, some of the stuff we're talking about in this day and age.
Yeah, that's, this was an opportunity to kind of bring it up, I think.
I'm not comparing myself to Nacho and
no. This was never meant to be.
I'm saying that there's a lot of like stuff going on with pros in general where it'd be like, if they got cut, I bet they'd be like, yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, that was my whole point. This was never about Nacho and Ebony specifically. Like, it got framed that way because that's who Moneymaker was talking about in this instance. But I more so wanted to have the greater conversation of like, what value are all of these pros actually offering to the operators that they're signed under? Because, if you go through all the major sites, there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 pros. And like 3 of them are actually top tier recognizable influencers or top tier recognizable elite pros, right? You have Kuhn at Stars, you have DNEGS at GG, you have Moneymaker at ACR, you have Ivy at WPT, Fedor at GG. Past that, Pads at Coin. I guess
Pads is a Coin?
Yeah, Mario Mosbach at Coin.
I feel like WPT has more elite pros, don't they? Maybe not.
They have like elite influencers. They have Brad and Andrew.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. But like, we're talking something very different at that point.
Like content.
Oh, they have Jungle,
value.
if you want to talk about elite pros.
Who?
If you want to. WPT.
No.
I believe Jungle works with them.
Not
Andrew's
publicly.
also not on the.
I have high, strong.
I'm sure he works with them, but like not publicly.
Just a strong reason to success.
I'm pretty sure.
You might be letting a cat out of a bag.
No. I'm not saying he's like getting signed or anything. I just meant like I feel like. Well, he's definitely done some like publicity stuff. So basically, the reason I say this
Jungle
is
will do
because,
publicity with anyone who's rolling a camera.
Well, at the 10K,
he got the
in
Oompa
December,
Loompas.
they did that Willy Wonka Oompa Loompa thing. So that leads me to believe that he's doing something with them.
No, bro.
So he just dressed up as Willy Wonka.
If you ever want Oompa Loompas, talk to Jungle.
He also dressed up as an anime character for HCL. He was in a cage as a lion for the WSOP.
These are strong points.
He's a freelancer, man.
He's a joyful goofball.
By the way,
he's definitely a goofball.
I've very rarely rooted for someone who I have no financial interest.
He wore a Poseidon costume at Triton.
Wait a minute. What was the whole cage thing again?
He was a lion, and like Phil was a lion tamer, always in a costume 3 sizes too small.
Oh, this was wild, by the way.
No shit, it was
S&M
wild.
Sort of vibe.
Yeah, this guy's just in a fucking cage.
Can we talk about how Phil has never really been affiliated with a site since like UB, which is kind of wild considering his reach.
He's with Bet Rivers, which indirectly he's run it once.
Okay,
which is
but
new.
like,
and he's been with Arya for ages.
Yeah, but
Ari
like he's like a shoe-in for like a poker site signing him for like a very large amount of money, and I'm guessing some have asked, so I assume that he's made the decision not to.
Yeah, maybe. I would assume he's getting more by staying out.
Interesting.
And I only say that because like I don't think Stars was probably ever interested. and GG went with Daniel. So that was probably
agree that he just never played online poker, and that'd be a reason why. Like he was
I don't think it matters.
Live based.
Neymar doesn't play online.
No, he does.
Yes, he does.
Neymar has an account.
Oh, come on, man. You guys, you say this thing like Hellmuth doesn't play online poker. It's like, okay, no shit. Oh, but the soccer player does?
Yeah, he's in there.
No, he plays because he's contracted to play the same way Hellmuth would if he was signed by a fucking site.
Hellmuth only played WSOP events.
Hey, man, Hellmuth final tabled a couple of online events.
That's what I'm saying.
He's
Loom
in there,
Stacking
guys.
was out there.
Luma stacking. I forgot about,
I did.
My point is,
bro, shout out to Hellmuth. I haven't really thought about Hellmuth in a while. He's unbelievable, man. Do you guys remember that hot dog boat thing?
No.
This is like a 2+2 thread. You don't remember this?
No.
Oh, somebody can pull it up, Jamie.
That was a good Joe Rogan reference, by the way.
You know what
So what am I looking for? A hot dog boat?
I feel like that's not descriptive enough at all.
No, it's gonna be enough. I almost guarantee it. Hot dog boat. Phil Hellmuth. The thing is not actually Phil in the picture. Somebody just like posts on 2+2 and was like, "Is this Phil Hellmuth?"
Mm.
Oh
And
no, I got something else.
Oh, what's this?
I don't know. Him eating hot dogs apparently.
This is the matchup I never thought would happen. Phil, Doug, and
What the fuck
the legend
is this?
of commentary.
You guys want sound?
I don't want to watch this anymore at all.
Is this a glizzy competition?
It looks like it. Oh boy.
How come Doug
How
has
did we never see
3
this?
and Phil has like 30?
What is going on
Wow,
here?
what a great thing we've done here today.
Not a bad segue for Doug, by the way.
We've really come full circle.
Speaking of the most, I don't know what his deal is, like what he's getting, but Doug's streams right now have to be the most, the highest cost to benefit
I agree.
ratio going right now
I
for
agree.
a poker site. It's insane what he's doing.
I agree. I hate to admit it, but like I think this marketing campaign is
It's
genius.
strong. Yeah, it's strong.
I think that this is like a clear indication full circle of like where value adds come from. Doug has a platform. Doug is a celebrity in this space, and Doug has a lot of influence. But that doesn't matter on its own. Like inking him to a site and then saying like passively promote it in passing here and there means dick.
Like wear a patch on a large stream.
That would not do fuck all, right? Like if you signed him to a $250,000 a year deal and said like, hey, just anytime you make a video, mention Club WPT Gold, or put a tweet out once a month kind of thing, wouldn't really move the needle at all. Like the loyal Doug fans would maybe check it out. They'd probably use code Doug here and there in passing.
If he threw like 25 seconds to it and said like the games are good or whatever, he'd probably get some click-through rate or whatever.
Some for sure. But looking at like the endeavor with the Lodge, for example, that's been like that's been his baby, and it's been a very slow grow, and rightfully so. Like he's done a great job with it. Start to now,
as opposed to his actual baby.
Well, yeah. But it's been a steady growth process that I'm sure had a lot of bumps along the way, and it wasn't as simple as just being like, well, I have a big profile in poker, I'm going to open a room and people will flourish to it, right? It's more so like I have a big name in poker, I attribute some level of credibility now to this establishment, and that will give consumer confidence in coming here. But it's going to be really slow acquisition model, and hopefully my presence will retain those members as they come. This is a smash and grab as far as like acquisition goes. Like he's fucking killing it, and he's doing it in the most against the grain kind of way that is actually so authentic to him that it plays. And I think that that's what people are misunderstanding whenever they go out and they sign all these pros. You don't want a shill for the sake of being a shill. You want a shill who is completely and utterly authentic and doesn't change their messaging one iota.
Yeah.
Once they start to represent the site.
It's like classic sales pitch move too. Like you say something that goes against what you're trying to get, and then you're more believable when you say the positive. So
exactly.
Like he shat on like, I mean, the site's early, right? Like it's very early. They're still working on the software. I think this is like a beta testing period. Maybe not.
I think they're out of beta now, but
whatever.
basically
they were just in beta.
Yeah, just launched.
And he's just like talking trash about like the software and the hand histories and stuff. And it kind of like lures you into like, all right, I believe this guy. And then, the one saving grace in his mind is how good the games are. But really, that's the thing that all of us actually care about.
Yeah.
We'll wade through we've waded through some really dog shit software in our day because the games were good, right?
I don't even think the software is that bad.
No, I actually kind of like the software.
I don't think it's that bad.
You two are being very generous.
No, I'm serious.
Okay.
I mean, there's things I would change, but like,
I mean, not being able to multi-table, it's definitely something that...
But that's different. Like, apparently that's coming in a month.
Bro, there were some things that ACR
it's 2025
that were way worse in my mind.
It's 2025. I played Full Tilt in 2010. If that software rivals this one, that's a problem.
Full Tilt was great.
Exactly.
Full Tilt.
Like your opinion.
But that's exactly the point. If Full Tilt was great 15 years ago,
oh yeah, well,
it's inexcusable to launch. Not inexcusable.
Tell
Look,
that
I'm not
to WSOP.com, buddy, because
hey man, history repeats itself.
That's an 888 thing, right? Like it is whatever. Like I don't want to start bashing.
Yeah, but
sites.
888 software is. I always liked it. So it's weird. Like some things.
Because you probably were playing on the updated version that we just now got here in Nevada. You have to remember, we got the launch version.
Updated
we got the launch version in 2014. So we've been playing 2014 software for 10 years.
Yeah, that's rough.
Right?
Is it even that bad?
Yes, it's that fucking bad.
But why?
Can't multi-table. No pre-flop bet customization. Can't do half big blind.
Are you reading Doug's list?
There's pre-flop.
I'm reading Doug's list.
I guess you have to type it in every time.
This list is amazing.
Constant disconnect even when he's online. Can't run it twice. Can't label players. Can't take notes. Can't auto top up. No time banks. No emotes. No in-game chat. No hand history. Broken hand tab bar. Terrible replayer. No HUD. Very high rake. Pros. Player pool watches vlogs.
I mean, that's,
and
that's a beautiful.
But this is what's genius about it, in my opinion. This is Eminem in 8 Mile. You lead with all your flaws and then say, what do you have to say about me now? Because the games are still fucking good.
They're so good.
Keep watching them vlogs.
Right? And like, honestly, I just like that he's being authentic. Like, I enjoy vlogs. I enjoy vloggers.
Yeah, same.
Doug doesn't, and he never has. And the fact that he's shitting on them and also like trash talking Brad when Brad's his business partner is very authentically Doug.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so WPT Gold put out a statement, and this was before I realized that this is all a giant work between Seriously Serious and Doug. Like, I mean, they're truly masters of their crafts. But they put out a statement that said, recently one of our affiliates has taken a critical approach towards our platform and made disparaging jokes about our ambassadors and players. While we respect honest feedback and desired features and occasional bugs, we do not endorse personal attacks on our community. Vlogs and other content channels are powerful tools for expanding interest in poker, bringing in new perspectives, and enriching our community. We stand by our ambassadors for the positive impact they make. We are working tirelessly to continually improve our platform. We stand by our team, value all our players, and remain committed to delivering a great experience for everyone. And that is like, a perfect corporate response. But what's funny about it is that it was like kind of an ass covering, if you will, if that makes sense, right? Like, this came out, and my immediate response, not realizing that this was kind of all work, was, man, imagine hiring Doug to be your affiliate marketer, and then when he is authentically Doug, being surprised. You know what I mean? Like, it was just Doug being Doug, like Doug doing Doug things. And I was just like, wow, it must have been a real shock to wake up one day and realize that, like, Doug's still Doug, and he's out here shitting on vloggers and telling everyone in the player pool that they absolutely fucking suck and all this other stuff. And it's like, what did you think you were hiring, But then the work starts to come to the surface and the genius starts to present. And now I understand where it's all going, because now all of a sudden, Doug comes with my olive branch to Club WPT Gold. Use code Doug. And it's a meme of a WPT player, and it's labeled Loves Vlogs. Has opinions on how well Brad Owen plays. Looks forward to a very large MTT with small buy-ins. What's the number in the top corner? I don't think you can beat this guy. Unironically signs up using code Doug. And then the Chad. Do you have the? Yeah, there you go.
Yes, the Virgin.
Who
Chad.
the fuck is Brad Owen? Ironically signs up using to play using code Doug. Cash buy-in is more than first place prize in MTTs. Randomizes every decision. Never quits anybody. And it's like, okay.
Randomizes every decision.
It's like, okay, now I see where we're going with this, right? Now it's getting funnier. And of course, it was only a matter of time before Seriously Serious really showed his chops and did the unthinkable.
I'm going to win $100,000 in 1 month. In 1 month. These people on this site are morons.
This site is a bunch of one-tabling mouth breathers who are watching vlogs. People probably have vlogs up on the side while they're playing.
The games are insane. So what I have working for me is that the people are just very bad.
Do you like vlogs? Sign up with code Doug and play with other vlog watchers at Club WPT Global now. 40% check result. No, he got us.
The people are just very bad.
Oh no, we're off to a bad start here, guys. What a wonderful river here. Only the best rivers here on Club WPT Gold. We've got the Virgin WPT player, loves vlogs. He's got the nuts. Take all the money. Take it all away.
These people are morons.
Oh no! Oh my god, guys, we are running so bad in this thing. King! No!
No one fucking likes you, man.
No, why? You floated threes on that flop? Oh my god. What? Oh my god.
I'm never gonna financially recover from this.
I jammed right into a rivered set. Wow. I'm only allowed to deposit so much money. This is who I am now. I'm making them money. Oh my god. I can't even get one bluff in. Our total is now minus 9323. That's looking like it's looking not good, I would say. It's looking not good.
It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that he's just actually really naturally funny. Like we see like his edited videos, and you know, obviously has people working with him. But when he does these live streams, you realize just how funny Doug is.
Well, being
generally
hungover / drunk for 6 straight hours is sure to find some comedic gold. And then, you know, losing 10,000 in that period, of course you're going to hit some key low moments.
Yeah, but he really embraces the losing of his own mind when he does these streams.
Yeah.
I remember in the micro stream he had this really great like 8-minute clip where he was just absolutely losing
where he starts folding everything, right?
Yeah, and he starts banning people in the chat for asking why he played heads up and stuff, and
yeah,
it was good. Yeah, this is a great campaign.
I think
There's
this is
a lot to learn from
I think this is really, really, really sharp. And again, I think it's just the combination of it being incredibly authentic and there being a lot of humor available. So now that this feud has started to develop between
so
WPT Gold and their #1 ambassador, people are watching. You know, people are watching. It's getting a lot of eyeballs. Most of these posts are cracking 100,000 in views, which is really good. And at the same time, Doug's not really being inauthentic. He's still leading with a lot of truths. He said he's boycotting 1020 on Club WPT Gold until the rake situation gets fixed. The rake at lower stakes is actually good compared to the market, but the $30 cap at 1020 heads up no limit is unfairly high, and I can't support that. We spoke about the rake a couple weeks ago. As of now, there's no like rake back program, and it is really high once you start to get to the, I can't remember if it's the 124 or the 248 level, but at one of those two levels, they start taking either 1 or 2 straddles per hand. So you start to get into the $10 plus per hand at some of these stakes, and at 10-20, he's saying they're taking $30 heads up. That's unbeatable. Can't beat.
Like even in the small pots, they're taking $30 out.
Well, no, it's capped. It's
but
probably,
how quickly does it cap?
I think it's 5% capped at that. But the thing is,
you can't beat 5% rake.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. Well,
it's a very high cap, and then.
Right. I think it's pretty standard though to take 5%.
I remember looking at
it, but the cap is really high.
I think it was 4%.
In online poker, you mean?
Yeah. Maybe it's 4%.
5% is crazy. Like there were arguments years ago.
Well, it's crazy when the cap is high, but like the cap used to be $3.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough.
So it was just like the higher you played, every pot was just capped at $3 rake or whatever. But now they've upped caps like according to the big blind, and now it's really difficult to beat 4 or 5%. Almost impossible.
It's like, I mean, if you're playing anyone reasonably competent, it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah, but they watch vlogs.
That's a strong counterpoint, Landon. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Watching vlogs.
It's been good, Conrad.
Serious question: is Thomas the best to ever fucking do it? Like, is Thomas really, just the best?
He's born to be a troll. That's for sure. Like he's incredible at being a troll / editor.
It is pretty nice. It's pretty nice that it's like the 1-2 combo. It's like, hey, go be you, and I'm gonna dunk on you, and you know how this works.
Yeah.
Versus dunking on someone that did not know how it worked.
Right. Like they're actually on the same team, but it appears as though they're at odds, and that I think it just plays really, really well to the audience.
If anything, there's like a general respect of each other's level of petty trolling.
Yeah.
Wholesome family fun.
Kind of beautiful.
I got one in.
Nobody likes you, man.
Wait, who was that saying that?
Me.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay.
You got a cameo or an audio.
I think they've used that audio like 100 times.
It's a good clip.
I'm glad I could give you guys a sound bite.
There you go, man. There's your legacy right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Use code Matt.
I got in the mix too. I tweeted at ClubWPT Gold and I said, can you either force this guy to change his name or double his VPIP? There's an imposter Matt Berkey out there. He's playing 17-13. And I got to tell you, I'm heavily insulted that anybody could play this fucking tight in a 3-blind anti-game. Also, I know who it is, which is even better because he absolutely is a goddamn nit in the fullest ways.
Well, also, you'd have to be playing exclusively Ring on there because those stats include all the games.
Yeah.
So if you ever start a game or play heads up or whatever, now your stats are like wildly inflated.
Yeah, right.
So that's that means they're like sitting that like last seat at every table.
100%.
Where the worst part is that they're using your name, so people might think it's actually
give him action.
And be action.
Yeah, of course. He told me he was mad at me when I outed him.
Max Vulture
Gold replied, 1 second, Matt, have you considered playing more hands? Gotta say, this is one of their weaker replies. Wasn't
well, you're saying it's somebody else. They're saying that it's you.
I get the joke,
right?
I'm just saying it's not the funniest of their.
Well, that one's hard to do.
I thought my response was a good one. You liked it.
Jimmy Rampage Brad is good. Yeah,
it was a banger in Landon's category. I said, I'm still a WPT Club Gold Global Platinum Pass Voyage at Sea Virgin.
At sea.
I did, however, sign up using code Jamie Rampaged Brad with first deposit bonus. Stop looking at me, Schwan.
Bro, I wish they would bring back that cruise. That was so much fun.
It's got to be dead.
It's probably dead, but it was
can't afford it.
It was so good.
It was good.
And like they built enough hype from last year that I feel like if it wasn't profitable last year,
I think it would go off again.
But
yeah, it would definitely go off.
I think it would go off. Like we had everyone out there had a great time. The games were incredible.
I don't know because I'm sure that was very expensive.
Yeah, I just feel like there's nothing they could do to make it break even.
There was a lot of FOMO from people that didn't go.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the timing of it was poor. If I remember, you had to choose between that or Florida.
I mean, you always got to choose something, right? It's like actually between that and Florida, it's kind of funny because you could, if they'd just gone back to back, they could have really helped each other out.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I remember we talked about that.
Florida to that.
Yeah, but we didn't play. We just did a podcast, I think.
Okay.
Well,
maybe we played. Did Landon come on the cruise?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. It was before Florida, wasn't it? Because
it was before that's
Florida
right.
Because I got second in April.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was before Florida, and you got stuck in Miami for a week if you wanted to play the events, or like 4 days or something like that.
It was something along those lines. Yes.
I did it wrong then. We just got a hotel in Miami Beach for like 4 days before and just kind of hung out.
Yeah, that sounds fucking terrible.
It was nice, man.
You're the worst.
Miami Beach is sweet.
All right, we've been going way too long. Guapo needs to go to sleep.
Can we cue up the Hellmuth photo?
Oh yeah.
Ah, yes.
I scoured the internet by clicking images on Google, and it was the first 8 images.
So what's the lore here?
I don't know, man. This was like 10 years ago, and somebody on 2+2 was just like, "Hey, I think this is Hellmuth, but I just found this picture," and then I don't know how it blew up, but
it does look like Hellmuth.
This was just like one of many weird, funny Hellmuth things that would just like pop up randomly. That guy's such a.
Is that actually Phil?
A unique legend.
I guess this is just like. Oh, it's not Phil?
I don't think so.
No, I was gonna say this. Like I was gonna say this must just be like a thing that he does because he had a video this year of like him driving some like gold car converted into a boat.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it was. I don't know. I can't figure this guy out, man.
I loved when 2 years ago I was playing in the main day one of the main event, and he did his walkthrough, and I think he was like Darth Vader or something. And I mean, they've gone from like
it was a Walmart costume. It was way too tight. You could see his small bulge. Not saying he's small dick, but I'm just saying the bulge was small.
Yeah, it feels very much like that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
but
might be what I'm saying. Maybe that's why he's sitting out the main this year.
They've dedicated like 5 to 10 minutes to this ordeal now. It's not like I'm doing this thing on the side.
I think this is why he's sitting out. I think they finally told him he can't do his intro anymore, and he's like, "Fuck it."
He can't what?
He can't do his intros anymore. And then he was just like, "Fuck it, this event's way too long anyway."
That was actually funny when he was like, "Yeah, these are too long of days or whatever." It was like, yeah, man.
Well, the funny part was that like he hasn't gotten past day 2 in like 12 years or something. It's been like forever since he's actually had to experience a long day, so who knows. But enough Phil slander. I love Phil. Phil's great. Let's leave him alone.
Oh, if anything, I'm pumping him up right now.
That's true.
I'm a huge fan.
Connie, stay safe out there,
judging by that bulge, he could use a pump. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Conrad, thank you for joining us. We will be back Thursday, I believe, at the usual time. That'll be our final show for the week. So be sure to tune in then. As always, Jesse, appreciate you joining us. And if there are any competitors out there who want to get in the duel that aren't very good at heads up, I'm listening.
And if there are any poker sites based out of Costa Rica looking for an additional pro.
That's right. Got one good looking guy over here. All right. Let's get out of here. We'll see you guys all Thursday.
Peace.